The string of casual videos continues with the Elipsa 2e and the Kindle Scribe. Yes, the stream of casual videos continues, everyone. This is Peter with GoodyReader.com, and today we have the Kindle Scribe versus the Elipsa 2e. Now, we've done the Scribe versus the Elipsa before. This is the Elipsa 2e, so it's bringing some additional things to it, and it's going to perform vastly different than the last gen. This is a 10.2-inch screen. This is a 10.3-inch screen, 227 ppi, 300 ppi. A lot of people are saying that that's a big thing. We have taken it under the microscope, so to speak, and we have found the 300 ppi screen is just better. It is clearer, it's more rounded, there's less fuzzing. We'll show you all that when we get into it. First thing we need to get into is the pens, because it's half the battle. Seriously, these are e-notes. They're not trying to be anything that they aren't. This more so than this, because they didn't really prioritize the e-note experience on this. They had a couple pen choices, which is interesting because they didn't really have any palette options on this. So let's get into it. First gen pen of the Elipsa had a quadruple A battery. You guys always ask, so we have to show you. Yes, it's a quadruple A battery, not a triple A. The benefit of that is once you run out of juice, you just swap out the battery. You can write forever. This is still working on this, but they've then replaced it with this. It has an eraser on the back, it has a secondary button on the side, and it employs the tips from what looks like an Apple Pencil, actually, or a Huawei M Pen. It's a very lightweight pen, but you need to charge this with USB-C. Why I say but is because whether you have that, it's not even close to Wacom. Wacom is faster, lower latency, requires zero charging, is lighter, the tips are cheaper to replace. There's just no benefit to go with any style of EMR or active capacitive that requires power. There's no benefit. Zero. This is a Wacom pen. You can use any pen on this. Mitsubishi, Stadler, Lamy, Remarkable, King Jim, Moby Scribe, Onyx, Bigme, anything. Anything will work on this. Perfectly fine. You find some cross-compatibility with Dell and Microsoft Surface on this, but that's basically it. Let's get into the devices first before we get into the actual UI and everything. This is a very flat, pancakey type of feel. Yes, they both have grossly over giganticized ledgers on the side. It's nice to have it when you can hold it, but it changes the screen to body ratio, and a lot of people complain about that because, as you saw on the Huawei, the ledger side is as thick as this side. So you do have some rubber stoppers, 4 in fact on the back, and the back is a nice kind of tungsten gray, really cool, cold to the touch aluminum body. On this one, this is the Kobo. This one has rubber stoppers, only 2 of them, and it employs a plastic backing, kind of a low pile rubber. They both have USB-C as well. A massive benefit of going with Kobo is that the device body is over 80% recycled plastics, including ocean-bound plastics, and the materials on the inside, it utilizes 80+% magnesium as well, and other things like a 100% recycled case, which is amazing, honestly, and all of their materials in the boxes are 100% recycled, so they use vegan ink and everything like that. Absolutely amazing, and you might question why the Kobo is slightly higher cost than the Kindle Scribe, and that's basically why, because they're not using a fresh spool of black number 4 or aluminum 305. They're using recycled materials, which is extremely important. I can't remember. Kindle's always terrible at the back button. The back button is always in different places depending on where you are, and it's not just a swipe up gesture support. I always mix myself up on that. Looking at the home screen on both of these, you have tabs at the bottom, pretty identical in the way they kind of lay it out. Home, library, notebook, more. Home, library, notebook, more, essentially, and Discover just has a few interesting things. Both of these are slow, okay? We're just going to say that right now. These aren't tablets at all. They're e-notes. These are not Bigme, they are not Onyx, they're not HiRead, they're not MeBook. These are just straight up e-notes. You can read books, that's it. We're just gonna go right in and open some books. You might be thinking at face value, you're watching in 4K, it's as highest as we can possibly make it on this. Are there any major differences in... Wow, I highlighted a lot there. Are there any major differences here? Well, let's look at the largest possible size of both of these. So we go up to the top. No, you don't go to the top. You go to the center on this one. Okay, X out of that. And then go to the center. and then go to the center. Come on, give me some center here. Oh, it is at the top. So we're going to go over here and we're going to do the font at the very biggest. And why we're going to do this is because look at the characters themselves. So looking at this, what jumps out to me is that they're both as white as can be in terms of the background contrast. Neither of them are any whiter than the other. Yes, I put the H on the white for our beautiful American crowd. You can tell by the whiteboard here that they're fairly identical. The light angle aside, they're the same. The blacks, we're splitting hairs here, but that looks more black than this. It's very hard to tell. In fact, if your face is about 4 inches away from it and you're like, okay, now I can see it, it is ever so slightly notched up in the contrast. It's more rich here than it is on here. Not by a lot, guys. You're not going to say, oh, this is 227 ppi, throw it in the trash. Garbage. That's not what's going on here. But if we had to break it down, that's more rich. Now, there is something that the Kobo has far above and beyond the Amazon. And I'm not sure why they did this. Watch this. This is a book. I can take notes on it. I can scribble on this. I could change. Watch this. I just changed the entire book. That doesn't even make sense. Kindle, you can't do that at all. There's no way to take notes on the screen. You can't do it. It just thinks you're touching it. You can make a sticky note, pop it on the screen, and then right here, and then view it on select devices after the fact. Not on all devices, depending on what version of the app you have, the PC app. Other Amazon devices you can view it, but you can't view it on things that don't have the note-taking section. And your notes, you're like, oh, where's my sticky note? Oh, there it is, the size of a piece of dust. You can bring it up. There's other ways to find it, but that's not the point. Your notes are so low on the priority totem pole, it's questioning why they even did that. It's very strange because this is obviously an e-note. They have 2 pen choices, they have advertising campaigns, and they have a note-taking section, which we'll get into right now because I just really don't know why they didn't prioritize it more. Now, when they came out, Amazon was just like, yeah, you know what, let's not focus too much on note-taking, and everyone's like, why? Their palette was abysmal. It's much better now, granted, but it wasn't always like this. It was quite poor. So let's check out the pen situation here. You can't take notes on there, and you can't take notes on here, vice versa. On the Kindle, if you go to the pencil and you choose any sort of thickness, watch this. You can tilt and dust the page. Only a handful of manufacturers can do that. It used to just be Remarkable. Now it's a couple manufacturers allow you to do that. When the Scribe started, there wasn't that much of a disparity between the lightest stroke and the thickest stroke. Now you get some sort of difference. That's really nice. But you know what? They didn't do enough. This palette is still awful, and we'll tell you why. You have highlight. You have a couple pens, marker, that's great. You have an eraser. You also have an eraser at the back. Cool. You have that, which is glove mode, kind of useless. It turns the pen into a capacitive touch. I don't know why you'd want that other than you're wearing gloves. You have back, and then you have move to the right side. That's it. This has been out for a while now, guys. There's no freeform selection. There's no shapes. There's no text. There's no images. There's no settings on this. That's where it ends. And now before we move on to this, which is worlds above the Scribe in terms of functionality, let's feel the note-taking kind of feeling to it. Glidey, glidey, glidey. Very, very glidey. This doesn't really feel like paper. It doesn't feel like a piece of paper, recycled printer paper, image paper. This just feels like you're writing on a stock postcard size Kodak stack that you're going to put in your printer paper, your printer machine, your photo printer. It's not very good at all. It doesn't give you a lot of feedback. It doesn't have the grit of paper to it. It's really, the pen tips are not to blame either because these are the stock tips. There are 2 types of tips. There are felt and there are palm when it comes to official Wacom. Felt is graphite, palm is plastic composite, and those are the ones. This is this one, the felt one. And it's really not that great. It's a very glidey experience. There's not a lot of feedback or kind of rumble that goes up into the pen. They're like, oh wow, I'm really wearing down the pen tip. It's not really there. And that's the extent of the note-taking section. That's honestly it. The Kobo takes it to a whole nother level. We'll try to be as quick as possible on this. The basic note-taking app has more features than that combined. So we have all these pens, more pens than the Amazon, multiple colors, 5 colors, different pen sizes, calligraphy, all that fun stuff. If you press the button whilst you're writing, you can swap between different things too, like highlights, etc. Add a little bit of transparency. You also have this one where you can actually grab it and move it around. That's awesome. You have erase. You also have an eraser at the back, which works quite well. Rip just destroys everything in its path, back, forth. And you have this, which changes the background. You have a lot of different templates that are pre-installed, and you can technically install your own templates various ways. You can just have blank PDFs and draw on them all day long. So you have that as well. You have delete page, export as well via this page or full notebook. You might think, wow, that's a lot of features. Kind of. They take it to an absolute silly extreme on the Kobo. No other device does this, and that's a fact, and it's 100%. Just no one else does it. We got to do a advanced. So Peter, I'll just call it advanced. This is the strongest learning curve of any eNote, period. There is no other eNote that has more of a learning curve, because if you grab a pen, you start writing, it won't let you. And you're like, well, what did I do wrong? How is that wrong out of all things? Well, what you have to do is actually write within these lines, and you have to say, hey there. And from here, what you do is you now have full control over these little slats. You double tap that. And from here, there's even more of a learning curve. You can circle things to highlight. You can underline to embolden, double tap to edit. I didn't do a good underline there. And I still didn't do a good underline there. There you go. You can double tap it again and start diving in there and editing. You're like, holy moly, that's a lot. Well, that's not even the end of it. You have all these subsections here. You can add a drawing where you have a drawing, you have a dedicated area, you have freeform selection. Much like that, you can kind of move things around and change it. And everything's in line here. You go over here and you can add a diagram. That's going to give you another box. So I can draw a circle, a line, triangle, square, P, a star, and another circle. Watch this. Double tap, boom, processed everything. That was terrible, but you know what I mean. It actually, the Supernote does the star a little bit better, but there we go. Got a star. That's crazy. And only the iReader stuff has that. The shaping, it's basically called. You go down, and this is just the silliest thing ever. And I'm not talking silly in a negative way. This is astronomically amazing that this can do calculations. And it does silly calculations. You can go SIN, learn that from Simon Gordon there, 90, I don't know what that is, times 3 divided by 1 over 2 equals. What the heck is that? Nobody knows. And I'm going to double tap that. I don't even know if that's right. And it even says, oh, maybe he doesn't know. It's approximately because of the intense amount of equations it's done. But look at what just happened there. That's faster than I could do it on my calculator, because I don't even know how to assign certain things to that and use parentheses. It's absolutely amazing what Kobo has done here in this note-taking section. They looked at literally everything else in the eNote industry and they said, forget that. We're going to be looking at doing our own thing. And no one else has done this. Not one single manufacturer. Not even close. It's absolutely insane. You can write within these little lines. You can write just whatever you want. It's next level. It really is. The downsides about this, it's a fairly slow experience, all things considered. The pen is less than extraordinary, and overall, it's not as cheap as other units. Whereas this has Wacom, this has the Amazon ecosystem backing it. It's just the way you want it when it comes to note-taking. It's a complete split decision for both me personally and basically everyone in our office, is that this has too many features, it feels like. But you have a pen that's not that great, and it comes with a higher price tag. You have no features under the sun. You're looking through your backpack, you're like, where's my features? You don't have any. But it's running Wacom. It has Amazon books. It has the Amazon absolute flexibility to download millions of titles across from any country. All you have to do is just log into your Amazon account and choose your country. You get access to that bookstore. It's unparalleled. So that's it, everybody. That's this versus this. Check it out. Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.